I don't smoke. It's not good for you or the people around you, but dear god does it look cool sometimes. Nowhere does it look cooler than the best anime of spring, Nippon Sangoku, the Three Nations of the Crimson Sun. Nippon Sangoku is a manga by Ika Matsuki that serialized on Shogakukan's Ura Sunday website in 2021, with the Studio Kafka anime adaptation airing in the spring 2026 season. It also got a stage play in 2025. As you saw in the intro, the anime is absolutely stunning, so it's really interesting that it came out of Kafka, a relatively new studio, only forming in 2020. It seems like the studio was founded by Koichi Naruse, Kazuaki Terasawa, and Takahiko Abaru, specifically to work on more of the ancient Magus' Bride. And that's exactly what they did, making an OVA, then a season 2, and once that was done, they made Fujimoto Tatsuki 17 to 26, and then Nippon Sangoku. There's been a lot of new anime studios popping up recently, and that could be a cool thing to look into in the future. But for now, look at these characters, and look how cool they look smoking.
What is Nippon Sangoku?
Great question, Zubul. Nippon Sangoku is like if the warring states of Japan, but post-apocalypse. After World War III, most of the world has collapsed, and Japan has regressed back into a Meiji-era society in terms of technology. The nation is divided into three kingdoms: Yamato, Buo, and Sei. The protagonist, Aoteru Misumi, is a simple, local agricultural officer turned strategist as he aims to get revenge by reuniting the country. He's calculated and incredibly specific. Other characters will try to outwit him, but he's just telling the truth in a way that ends up manipulating their thinking. In a society where honesty very much does get you killed, he lays it all out on the table. It's amazing to watch him skirt death over and over. Confuse your enemies, my boy. The rest of the cast is equally eccentric and memorable, each with their own allegiances and perspectives. The show exudes classical grand strategy stories. Aoteru is even shown holding a fan in the opening, likening him to Kong Ming, very aptly for reasons we'll touch on later. While watching, I was reminded of Legends of the Galactic Heroes. It has a very methodical, poetic pace to the writing, but unlike Legends of the Galactic Heroes, the battles don't overstay their welcome. You get a strong setup and then bang, the battle is over. I never once knew who was going to make it out alive of any given conflict. Speaking of conflict, unsurprisingly, battle is a core aspect to the show, with an invasion being the main plot of this season. All the while, under the surface, a secondary story takes shape: the building up and breaking down of the protagonist's view on the world. Things are grim, and the show really does not hold back from killing characters. Stress like that really makes you want to smoke.
Money makes life happy.
This video was sponsored by you, if you want. Do you have a project you want one, maybe two more eyes on? Do you have something to offer us, two goblins in a trench coat, for a spot in a future video? A free copy of your book? A crisp high five? Money. Pitch it to us wherever you can get a hold of us, but blue sky or email preferably. Also, we have the right to reject any pitches and won't promote any of these things. On with the video.
The visuals are stunning, with a more realistic style and simpler animation. The stillness of this works well with its contemplative pace, and the use of maps with sliding images doesn't feel like a crutch, more just the simplest way to convey the strategies in play. There is a sketchiness to the style which feels really nice. Heavy outlines that make characters feel separate to their surroundings. In general, it's very nice to look at. There's this use of this one specific hatching, which I think is supposed to be a technique used in manga called kakami. It was popularized in early manga before screen tones became popular, and is used heavily in the manga for Nippon Sangoku. And then you have the smoke. Most of the cigarette smoke is a 3D simulation composited in. Thematically, I really adore the layering of techniques here. Much as the world of Nippon Sangoku lies in the ruins of Japan, the cells themselves span decades of technique. It feels very careful and very deliberate. Slight style shifts and variation just make it interesting to look at. For instance, the opening to the whole thing is a crash course through the history that leads to this alternate Japan. To me, it reads as a shift backwards through time in the form of aspect ratio and composition, which is a cool way to introduce a setting that is basically if modern Japan got bombed back to the 1800s. Besides that fairly unique setup, there are a few things that make Nippon Sangoku a bit of an oddity in this season's lineup. First of all, it is technically an ONA, Original Net Animation, as episodes were initially distributed through Amazon Prime Video, with the TV broadcast the day after. There are around 20 anime that have been Amazon exclusives, with it really only picking up last year. Some you may have heard of include Banana Fish, City the Animation, and the new Ghost in the Shell anime. How did this affect the production? No fucking idea. It was co-produced with Amazon, but the extent of what that means is a mystery. The second interesting thing is that it had a role listed I've never seen before, Brush Characters by Kotaha Kiriyama. From what I can tell, Kiriyama did calligraphy for certain parts of the animation and promotional art. It's a fun piece of flair to add to the visual identity of the anime. The third interesting thing is that a lot of the voice actors for the English dub are very new to anime dubbing. The voice actor for Aoteru only has 4 other credits. The imposing yet blasé character of Denki Taira's VA has never done an anime dub before. The same goes for the narrator. Of course, both have extensive experience in adjacent industries, but it's still interesting to see. They all did a good job, even if there was an amateurishness here or there, but in some way, that works. Aoteru is calculating and logical, but also naive and new to speaking up. Meanwhile, the voice actor for the arrogant Yoshitsune Asama is voiced by a more experienced VA. No idea if that was the intent, but it definitely feels in the dub's favour. Overall, it's a very pretty and enjoyable anime that more people should check out.
Every episode opens with a line reminding us that underage smoking is prohibited. The main character starts as a 15-year-old and does indeed smoke from the outset. Aside from the fact that smoking is popular in Japan, it also harkens back to the series' focus on the Meiji era, when smoking became incredibly popular, despite the fact that tobacco was non-existent in Japan before the Columbian Exchange. There's a timelessness to it, as the timeline of Nippon Sangoku starts from around 2045. It means that we can reasonably assume that the over 3,000 hectares of domestic tobacco production in 2020 Japan was at least maintained, and so is more than enough to support a decimated population. We can even thusly infer that a lot of the famine and food shortages are due to a hyper-focus on making sure there are enough cigs to go around the country. I'm of course being facetious. It's not worth over-examining it to this point, but I do think it's interesting to examine it from a narrative perspective. Both our main 2 characters are introduced smoking in the manga and depicted smoking in the anime. Almost every character smokes. Well, specifically, almost every man. Smoking skews heavily towards men, in part because of the long campaigns about the damaging effects smoking has on fetal development. And before we knew that, it was more because women aren't allowed to do cool shit. But don't worry, the women in this show more than make up for the lack of smoking by being cool as shit or equally weaselly little shits just like the men. Anyway, if I were to put forward a theory as to why smoking is so prevalent in Nippon Sangoku, smoking is badass. To explain, we must pull the classic video essay tactic and go back to 2nd century China. The Three Kingdoms period of China covered barely a century, but it had long-term ramifications for humanity, namely in the form of the 14th century novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms. This is romance as in, we made almost all of it up to be cool. And cool it was. It's hard to emphasize how massive this novel was. It's one of the best-selling novels in Korea and has translations into a few dozen languages, and is considered one of the 4 classic novels in China. But what matters to us in this video is that it's incredibly popular in Japan. We have novels, video games, yaoi, eroge, and pretty much any other medium you can name. Similarly, Nippon Sangoku positions itself as an adaptation of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, which should be pretty obvious if you can count to 3 in Japanese. Ichi, ni, Sangoku. And so we can easily interpret the slight logistical oversights as romance. This playfulness towards reality, history, and adaptation also comes through in the manga covers, which remind me more of a textbook than anything else. Especially with fake wearing and ghosting, this is a weathered book of something long past. I also found I kept coming across the idea that despite being an adaptation of Romance of the Three Kingdoms, it was a very accessible anime. That isn't wrong, I know so little about Romance of the Three Kingdoms, but it was still really enjoyable. The links are more set dressing with vague allusions in names and references to strategies that appear in the original. But considering this is nestled alongside quotes from Sun Tzu, and technology such as guns, it really is a small drop in what's going on. The core plot is following Aoteru Misumi and his rise to being the man who will reunite Japan. This can also be seen with the symbol on his fan, which seems to incorporate several other clan sigils we see throughout the anime. That's a personal interpretation though. I also think it's relevant that the Mi in Misumi is spelled using the kanji for 3. Aoteru is very much a symbol of bringing 3 things into one in that regard. The anime so far has adapted 21 out of the 50 chapters currently out, so it will be interesting to see where the story goes. And it's a good sign there should be enough for a second season. Downside is the manga has no English translation, so if I wanted to catch up, I'll have to learn Japanese. You know what is in English though? Our Patreon that you can go to after you like and subscribe for early access to videos, work in progress videos, and monthly blog posts. Following us over there is super helpful and also gives you an easy way to give advice on videos before they come out. We hope to see you there or in the next video. Bye!